Dokie, looks like we're going live.
It does.
Hello, Beth Ann, how are you doing?
I'm good, Gail. You're in New York, is that right?
I'm in New York. I'm heading home today, and apparently there's going to be snow in North Carolina tomorrow, so I'm going from cold to cold. How about you? Where are you
Well,
today?
I'm in Vancouver and we finally stopped being really cold, below freezing for a while, which is unusual, and it's overcast and we've had a little bit of rain. So I'm feeling better because we're not too chilly.
I know. Well, everybody, I know you're enduring weather ups and downs and funding ups and downs. And I know this is a really frightening time for many nonprofits with their federal funding at risk. And it's important that we all talk about this together as a community, and also that we organize appropriate messaging to our donors. Right, Beth Ann?
Absolutely. I mean, speaking of freezes, some of us in the nonprofits are not experiencing these funding freeze, but many of us are. But whether we are or not, everybody's hearing the news. Some are unsettled by the news that's happening across the US, and others are glad that we're kind of taking control of things. So no matter where your donors are, we can talk to them about what's happening now for our mission, right?
Yes, and we've gotten some questions. If you don't know your donor's politics, and some donors literally may be in favor of these cuts, and so it's a very volatile and delicate time for major gift fundraisers, because you and I are both veterans of the university world, where you have donors with all sorts of opinions and all sorts of backgrounds, and some of them are gray. As opposed to black and white. And as major gift fundraisers at the university level, you learn to just keep your cool and try to not go into volatile waters that are going to be controversial. Have you had any
Yes.
experiences like that in the world, Beth Ann?
Yes, I mean, I think also you need to be not only transparent but authentic. So some of our colleagues here are, fighting, or maybe they were even working with things like USAID. So we don't want you not to be honest or authentic, but we think it's about being transparent in what you talk about and how you're going to continue working on the mission, whether or not there is a plan. Gail, you and I know one of our plans is to bring our donors closer to talk about their impact on the mission work that we're doing.
And we have been saying over and over since the 1st of January or the 20th, the whole year,
Yeah.
knowing that it was an uncertain environment, to draw your donors closer. And we
Mm-hmm.
talked a lot about the ways you do that in our LinkedIn Lives and on our emails that we send to the community. But now we're talking about conversations with major donors about potentially devastating financial future for your organization. Not all organizations are in that state, but if you consider that, I was reading there varying uh, data points on how much government funding supports nonprofits. But I will say, Beth Ann, with every capital campaign we have ever done, there has been a portion of government funding coming from city, local,
Mm-hmm.
county, federal funds flow through, or the federal government. And so it really is a very serious crisis for many organizations, and it's frightening.
That's right. I mean, just as a little reminder that nonprofits as a whole are the third largest employer in the US and the second largest employer in Canada. I mean, these are big industries and you might think that that needs to be slimmed down, but we're doing important work. So one thing, Gail, we talked about is being confident when we speak to donors.
Yes, and we talked a lot about having how to have the confidence to reach out to major donors. But your two takeaways today are transparency, and what's the other one, Beth Ann? You want to be forthright,
Well,
transparent.
and I think you want to invite donors to be part of the solution.
Yes.
I mean, if you're just talking to them about the problems, where is Stephen Screen likes to talk about making a donor shaped hole so that the donors can walk in and be partners with you. And you really need to do that and not just wring your hands, but talk to them how they can be part of the solution in some way.
And many organizations that are doing social justice work or all sorts of work that may be threatened by federal funding are used to advocating their positions and used to you and their donor and your don if you fall into that group of organizations, your donors are fired up right now
That's
and
right.
they're concerned and it's a great opportunity to reach out. We talked last time, I think, Beth Ann, about the pretext for reaching out to your major donors. And one of the things that I want to mention to everybody today is the idea, since if you don't know what you're going to get when you reach out to a donor in terms of what their perspective is on all of this, you can say, would you like to know, use permission,
Hmm.
what was going on financially and what our financial outlook might be.
That's right. And many times we don't know because I've worked in many places where we don't engage in political conversation.
Yeah.
So to me, the way to enter into this conversation is not with trepidation, they won't believe what I believe, but more with a not knowing stance and one with open and curiosity, because what you two share in common is that you believe in the mission that they've been giving to and that you're working for, right? So I
Yeah.
think coming at that instead of fearing, being fearful is finding that common ground.
Yeah. And you know, it's a challenge sometimes to find the right words to say about a situation. We don't believe in whining and we don't believe in the sky's falling, but right now the sky may be falling.
Well, sir, it certainly can feel that way for many people, or even we don't know what's going to be at the end of the tunnel. But I think when you're coming into a conversation, one of the easiest things, and we talk about this a lot, is letting donors talk. Is I just wanted to check in. You've been an amazing supporter for the last 5, 10, 15 years. And how are you feeling right now? Just let that be what you open with, and be strong in the conversation. So if they have a different political opinion than you, listen. I mean, don't, you're not trying to fight and convince people otherwise, but to listen about how they are feeling and
And
then
they're
move the
still donors.
conversation. What?
They're still your
They
donors.
are. They are. They are. And for some of us, yes, we might be advocating for different, more political things, but a lot of donors are there to fight hunger, and that doesn't know political bounds, or to save the environment, which locally, a lot of people, whether they're on the left or right, care about their immediate area and what's being done there.
Yeah. And you know, look, I want to level with everybody that this is a really tough situation. Okay, because you've got donors on all ends of the political spectrum who feel very strongly. And maybe you're lucky to have a lot of people in the middle. And so it's a highly unusual situation to have to deal with such diverse personal opinions and personal values among your donor base. But I would say that you know your donor base better than anybody. And you should know that if these are major donor prospects, you should know them and know where they're coming from, right, Beth Ann?
You should. And I think when we talked about having something that your donors can do, obviously, one of those things is to make a gift. But do you have something else that donors can participate in right now? Some of them might be writing your congressperson or attending an event you have. Giving people an option to become more involved in some way is really one of the ways we bring people closer, not just by stewardship, which is important, thanking, which is important, and not just asking, but by giving them something to participate in.
That's exactly right. And you know, we really believe it's one thing to be transactional with your donor about please support us financially. And yes, it's a crisis. You can call this a crisis in terms of reaching out to your donors, but also inviting them in to participate, honoring the donor as a whole person to engage their heart and their mind as well as their wallet. So a very important strategy.
This may be a good time to invite people to come to a virtual town hall, for instance, with your leadership. I think we have a question, Gail.
We do. And Jennifer is asking, how do you handle donors who are angry and want us to be angry as well? Boy, when I was a university fundraiser, I had to endure all sorts of conversations. The donors were talking at me, and the best thing you can do is just nod and try to be neutral because I mean, going into a place of anger with your donor, is that going to really help your nonprofit? However, your donor may want to vent, and you're the person who gets the venting.
Yes, I think for me, letting donors explain their frustration, which may be in the political arena or maybe something else, the most important thing you can do is listen to them and even ask them, can you tell me more about what you're thinking or what you're feeling? And sometimes, I mean, I think donors just need to blow the wind of anger out of themselves. And I know it's hard to do, but they're rarely actually mad at you. They're often just mad at a situation. You've been the one who is getting the brunt of it, right, Gail?
Yeah, and I will acknowledge this is awkward. You know,
Yes.
if you're going to be a major gift officer frontlining with major donors, you never know what you're going to get. And people have all sorts of opinions. People are very diverse, but they have a huge commitment to your cause if they're funding you. We
Yeah.
have another question from Peter.
Oh,
Um, how should you approach if you're new at the organization and there really isn't that much information on the donor?
well, I mean, it's unfortunate if they've had a long relationship, but one, you should know their gift history. But again, come as a stance of not knowing, hi, I'm Peter, I'm with the yada yada, the hangnail society. And and I just wanted to introduce myself, you could say, if you are actually new, and you can be new for like 11 and a half months to an organization. And I just wanted to hear about why the work we do resonates with you. That's one thing. Why you just started giving. Now, if there's been a long giving history, this should be documented. But you can ask as a person who is new. I'd love to hear your story about why you care.
And also, I have two other ideas if you're
Yeah,
new. One is to immediately reach out with a thank you.
that's right.
And always get in front of your donor if you're thanking them and being all about them. And the other thing is that you can say, I'm now your new assigned contact at our organization, and I want to make sure that you have all the information you need. How are you feeling as a donor to us these days? And again, it invites the donor to share. And so
Mm-hmm.
you find a little bit like you don't know what you're going to get. You find out what you're going to get when the donor starts sharing why they give and how they believe in your organization. Because Beth Ann, if we can go back to the mission that the donors are funding,
Mm-hmm.
mission is the mission. And the donor is giving you money and being involved in a big way in your mission. They have a deep, there's a reason people give to frogs and not swamps, or ballet and not opera. I mean, I don't people have a personal commitment and personal history with many of these missions. And so the ups and downs of the political theater may not matter to the donor's commitment to your mission.
That's right. So we might ourselves be feeling a lot of anxiety. I know I am. But we don't want to presume anything about our donors. So
Yeah.
calling and coming from a not knowing stance. And Peter, one thing we talked about at our last LinkedIn Live is, remember, you're wearing the coat or the mantle of your organization. You are the representative. So although you are new to the organization is not new to your donor, and you can wear that with pride, that I know you've been a long-term donor. I'm so excited to be here supporting what you're fighting for, what you're fighting against, whatever that is in your mission. And that's a wonderful way to start the conversation because you two already have something in common.
Now, Beth Ann, let's switch a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about organizations who really are at risk, whose
Yes.
funding is imperiled or likely or has already been cut. And your donor base is deeply passionate and committed to your work. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and if that is the profile of your donor base and your organization and your mission, I think it's time for an all hands alert. It's awkward. You don't want to be like the sky is falling but maybe the sky is falling. And how are you frank and transparent about the financial future without whining? You can be businesslike about
Yes.
the future. This is what we're doing to plan. This is what may happen. These are the people who may lose their job or who have already been laid off. And we are issuing an all points alert to our major donors for an additional emergency fund of $500,000 or whatever. What do you think about that strategy, Beth Ann?
Yes, I worked somewhere where we did that during the 2008-9 financial crisis, where we set a goal of an additional $11 million with another organization and we so first of all, I think you don't want to personalize it like some of our staff may lose their job. I think you want to make it all about the mission and what they've been serving. And I think saying, let's just say we lost 30% of our funding quite drastically overnight, however that might have happened. I think that's fair to say. But there needs to be at least the kernel of a plan. So what we're doing now is we've created a mini campaign to raise $3 million. It needs to be what people can do to raise $3 million over the next 90 days. Let's say it was something like that. I always remember Brown raised something like 15 million for scholarships, the university called Brown University, in like 6 months or 4 months, so people are motivated to meet your mission, whatever that mission is. And so you need to talk about the mission and you need to invite them in to be part of the solution.
And I like the idea of something specific. We have
Yes.
also said in a lot of our messaging and chats, LinkedIn Live chats, about how taking action, having some sort of plan, having steps helps you move forward into more of a solution rather than just staying in the depths of despair, which can also happen. So I think Beth Ann's point about a plan is really important. And why not have a plan for an emergency seed fund?
That's right.
Going to cover these three things. I mean, donors will give to something specific. I mean, I get these emails from organizations that I sort of support now and then. And there was one situation where $50 would do such and such. And I give maybe every other year, very sporadically. And you said, and I thought, I'm going to do that, to make it really easy, really specific. And the donor knows that they're making an impact.
If your organization is having a hard time, or God bless them, but keeping their heads in the sand, I would encourage at least the major gift fundraisers to ask for a type of plan that they can talk about that has the blessing of the organization. I mean, it's the whole organization needs to feel like there's a plan as well, but to be able to bring something to your donors that's tangible, that you can talk about, that gives them a direction to move in is it's critical, actually. And Gail, I was going to say, a lot of the organizations that have lost some money the funds have been frozen, are faith-based organizations, right? So I always encourage you to be using the language of faith in these organizations in these times. Like, I'd love to ask you to pray about making a gift, or I know we all have faith, but we also need to make some action, and what we're encouraging our donors to do is X or Y.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so everybody, we're going to close out, and we just want to give you a little pep talk. And I want to acknowledge that the situation is really very difficult. And it's scary for a lot of people. It's devastating for many organizations and many people who work in these jobs. If there's anything we can do for you, if you want a pep talk, if you want a quick strategy phone call, if you want to shoot an email, I've been making that offer. We've both been making that offer in the newsletter and in our chats. And please reach out to us. We will be there for you, because this is a community and we all serve the common good. And I wish you bravery. I wish you sleep at night. I wish you hope and optimism, because if we stay in a place of optimism and hope, we will be more effective. Right, Beth Ann?
Yes, absolutely.
So thanks, everybody. Have a great day. And